Well, hello and welcome back to All My Art and Soul with Michelle Holden, the artist behind the channel. If you caught my video, last week's part 1 in how to make or how to start a mixed media abstract series, you can call it mixed media collage, but the design is abstract. And we started with a big sheet of heavier watercolor paper, taped off a whole bunch of sections of 5 by 7. That's the dimensions of this here. And then leaving about an inch with the yellow tape which I chose for this week's. It's great because it doesn't tear the edge of the watercolor paper, even though I had one little tear, because I think paint got over the edge of the tape, and then sometimes when you don't score it with an X-Acto knife, it can tear. But if you're using a bright color all around it, it can be very distracting. So that's why some people choose to use the acid-free white, which I order on Amazon. And as you can see, this brand, XF tape, is a little wider than this one. And it's like a masking tape, but it's white, acid-free, and it's what framers, I believe, or what I'm going to use to attach my artwork to the mat once I feel some are good enough to sell. And I will be putting these 5 by 7s, is it an 8 by 10? I believe it's an 8 by 10 mat. Small, using standard measurements, so it makes it easier for people to, mat and frame and put them up in their homes. So this was an exploration. It's still part of my explore, play, and discover. And so welcome all if you are or have just discovered my channel. I believe this particular video, last week's video, I just refreshed the page and I was surprised in that it almost has 1,000 views within the first week. And I think 70 or something likes, which is awesome. Please hit that subscribe, share, and join the channel, join the journey. My channel is all about using an intuitive process for discovering different layering, the mixed media layering process, which is an intuitive process, that's how I use it, to make abstract art easier, more fun, and really with your voice showing through in the marks you make, the patterns you choose, along with the color, the values, etc. All of that art stuff, but we don't really get too heavy into that. We sort of spin in, use, and respond, and then do our reflection afterwards. And so these I've divided into 2 because I noticed that last week, the first batch, which this is nickel azo gold, my last bit that I have. And if, like I said before, and thank you, subscriber, viewer, for sharing that information on this particular video, on last week's video. I pinned the comment so it's at the top, and you suggested, and just off the top of my head, there was one color, I think it was a nickel, I forget, it was a gold from Golden, and then with another added to it, and which can get different strengths. So there is a way to get that color again. And if not, check last week's video. I will leave a card in this video that can take you. It'll be up in the right-hand corner, and you can read that comment and try out the new substitute for Quinacridone Nickel Azo Gold. Okay, so what's underneath this layer of Nickel Azo Gold is gesso, which I put on when the tape was on. And then I chose to take the tape off last week at the end, just because I found the yellow distracting, and I knew we had about 7 or 8 layers. In the comments section of last week's video, you will also see the sequence of layers. And I do plan on offering that as a PDF. I haven't created it yet. I know I'm behind. And I've got a resource spot on my website. Or I can also and will also offer the sequence of the marks, which is not it's set in stone. It's just that it's a good way to remember that's the order that you did things in if you want to create the same results for the next series. So I have 11 here. When I taped it off, I had 2 extra, which I didn't mind. I went ahead and treated them the same anyway, and they're going to be used as a reference of, oh yeah, remember I did that. I made a swooshy mark with these kinds of brushes. They get all very stiff, but they are great for making that kind of mark and energy on your piece. And notice the size of the brush in ratio to the size of the substrate. So if I was to use a larger, like a 20 by 20 or a 24 by 24, I would use a nice big brush. So it's really good to have small, medium, and large in art tools. So these I use as a practice, and I'll work on those on my, as a side. But this week it is part 2, and I know that I want, and this might not be for the next series, the next step, the next stage to be collage. And as you can see, you can't see all my pieces, but I will show you because I wanted to zoom in much more closely on the details of these 5x7s. So I have this pile because I know that there's gesso that I want to go over with a glaze, a very thin. I'm not sure what I want to use. I don't know if I want to use a pink. I think I might lean towards these colors. As you can see, let's show them here. And I've just grabbed some collage, and I have a tendency of grabbing too many pieces of collage, and I don't want my work to be too busy. And that's my intention for this one, is to keep it simple, calm. And I will show you the pieces that I've selected that go with my style, and that might give you some ideas for selecting your next pieces. I've got some large white, black and white that, yes, these might be too big, so I'll tear them down. The edge here is from the actual edge of the paper, but if I put that on this edge, that might be really cool. I don't want to cover up all of it. I just will cover up some of it. So I use a combination of tearing and cutting. This is a little bit smaller, but notice on certain pieces, and I'll just flip through these. So as I was saying, sorry, I'm jumping around. I was separating the pile into what I had chosen to paint the gesso after the nickel azo gold, where on these pieces I used the gesso first. I use nickel azo gold on these, just in different areas. Still got some texture where I had the white, the transparent white paint, this one. Transparent Mixing White by Liquitex Basics. Really nice, thick, but transparent white, which is so cool for transparent layers, of course. So you can see the texture. So there's visual texture, and then there's physical texture here. And I want the combination of both, but just simply, just in one area of the piece. Notice how those very first initial pencil lines that someone asked, well, why do I start scribbling, with pencil? Because it's very light. I know that only traces of those will show through in the end. And sometimes at the very last, actually a lot of times, I add pencil. And it doesn't matter, HB, not water soluble, just regular graphite pencil. Here's some more. I'm just going to tilt the page so you can see some texture. That's going to turn out really well. I was going to add the teal. I'm not sure at this point I want to. I think I want these pieces to be very minimal. So I think the most other color that I will add is probably through collage and maybe similar colors in a final glazing of a small area, maybe picking up some of the texture. But as I remove the tape early on, because I just couldn't stand that yellow tape anymore, I want to be careful with keeping the edges really nice and clean. See, there's that pencil there, so that's easily erased. I'll just show you. So next time, I'm going to experiment with different ways of making sure I have a 5x7. Maybe just with using tape and notches and not getting a pencil mark, but I sort of like that drawing element within this piece. So there's some texture that might show up. Here's some more texture that might show up, depending on what I do with it. So this time, I'm going to put the collage first. And I'm just going with my, with my feeling here. So let's see what happens. And what I like to do is I just put them in a pile. To glue them on, I'm going to use gloss super heavy gel. And for the very thin pieces, I'm going to just use a gloss medium. And you can also use matte, but this is very fluid, and which is super for tracing paper, tissue paper, parchment paper, palette paper. And then I want to use the thicker for regular copy paper that has been rolled with my brayer from leftover paint on the palette. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop talking so that I can speed up this process a little bit for you while I'm working, and then I'll pause and share some more thinking when necessary. Okay, so here we go. Okay. Okay, so I added about one piece of collage, and if you notice, I'll just spread them out here. I'm going to go another layer of collage to each one. There's music, old music pages that I bought from my from my used bookstore. This is palette paper with the mono printing technique that I showed in a previous video. Yes, it's under Explore, Play, and Discover, and it says how to use mono printing. So go check that out if you haven't. This is from a magazine. I love sci-fi magazines, old black and white magazines, and I love just using black and white unless the colors are incredible, and I use them as color alongside areas of, just sort of echoing different elements in a mixed media. So this is building. And as I was saying, so with the collage layer compared to the other layers, I tend to just, lately, I'm just slowing down, taking my time. This is really neat. This almost looks like one of those, but underneath. This is that transparent white that's over top the black painting marks that I used in the fourth layer. Okay, so we have music, magazines, paint, palette paper. So I'm just going to lie them out here so you can take a peek. More music in amongst the texture and this very, energetic stroke or mark. This is parchment paper. It's like parchment. Yeah, I think it's just parchment paper. I'm loving that. Who knows? But I'm really liking the mark in there. I created this collage piece on my jelly plate printer as a ghost print using string. If you're interested in how I use the jelly plate as just part of my collage for my work, let me know in the comments below, and I can create a video series about that. If there's anything that you would like me to demonstrate, I'm always asking my viewers, subscribers, just let me know in the comments below this video. So as you can see, who knows what's going to happen. I might just put more and change the value. I know I'm going to change the value. I definitely will make it a lighter value or less of a hue, depending on which way I go. So we'll just reference as value. This is just like a manila paper, but really like a dark neutral with black paint on it, just with my brush. And I have big giant pieces that I tore up. So getting that circle element in. And what I love about when you're creating a series, by the time you go through 12 or 9, however it is, the ones that you start are all ready to dry, and ready for the next layer, or almost. Liking that transparent. Now notice some of it wrinkles up. That's why, and when it is the palette paper, it can peel off, so you might want to protect it with another layer of medium. I'm going to do that right now. So I don't like what's happening. And I know it'll wrinkle some more, but that's okay, because this is probably going to get covered again, but not all of it. And that's the thing that I really had to learn, is you're doing layers, but you're not putting them on the entire substrate. You're just using little peaks that still counts as a layer while the rest of the layers are showing through. This is a tissue paper, and I love how it just melts away with the medium. And you can see a lot of that previous layer underneath. This is the palette paper again, but it went on a little bit better, even though, see in the reflection, you can see it ripple, but it's sort of a cool effect because they're horizontal. And in my mind, I use broken lines a lot in my work that emulate horizontally water or rain or a natural element of some kind. And that's it. Okay, so I'm going to go through and I'm just going to randomly pick them. Not going to worry about using the hairdryer this time, which is nice. And add another piece. So that will take us to part 2 of this video. And I will be adding a part 3 where we finish up with most likely maybe China marker, pencil, Posca markers, and pastel, and maybe a little glazing to pick up that other texture. And then that's all I want to do. I want to keep these simple. Okay, all right. So I'm going to put them up here again, bring down one at a time, and let's see. So what I'm doing now that that's there, I'm going to use my selection, and I have a little bit of extra, sort of an overflow right over here. And I'm just going to respond to what's there. And that's the best part of this art process. And especially, I call it an intuitive art process because you're just responding to what's there, and it requires you to be very present. And when you're present, everything on what you're doing and right in front of you, everything else melts away. Or at least that's the goal. So I'm going to make sure it's up high enough so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to stop talking now and go through the next layer. Okay, so let's just take a look at what we have. I'm going to show each one and talk a bit about it. So this one was a negative space in a punch. So, oops, there I go again with my lights. So here is the 2-inch circle punch. I need to get some more squares and some other shapes. I know I've said that before in previous videos, but that's okay. That's how I roll. And I love how the value is similar but not the same, and it's semi-transparent there and then just creates a shape. I forgot to mention, once you start adding your collage, then you get to start, you're pushing back, you're bringing forward and pushing back the backgrounds, and then shapes start to appear without you having to go through what shapes will I use? And you know what? I found I tried to do that, and it was so, I don't know, not natural. It was so forced. It did not look good. At least I didn't think it did. This, and I'm going to make some more because now I know how I want to use coffee filters as collage. They really, truly melt. Thing is, you're left with this circle shape, but if, as you can see, if you're working small, you can tear them down and do the edge like so. Now, I like the color, I like the texture, but look what happens. You see how we've got some quiet and this beautiful texture going on that I am not covering up. I'm just leaving it. I'm going to finish up with some pastel, and I'm basically going to let this one stay. If I go and add this, look how it's just way too busy. There's already enough of that. And that's how you can use collage. You can bring in color as pieces, not bad. I even have this, which I haven't used yet, but look, this is the parchment paper. Parchment tracing paper, or even just parchment paper or wax paper. And once you, look how translucent that is. For this piece, it's not going to work, but you see, you can emulate these shapes or echo the motion either vertically, the vertical or the horizontal, with another color. So there's your difference. So that's what's happening in there. I'm just going to work backwards. I loved this. This is tissue paper with just white stencil. I think on the jelly plate because it's easier to put on and then lift, and I need to make a bunch of those. I experimented with using white because I had so much black, but I think this in black would look really cool. And you see how I only went, I wanted to maintain this pattern, and I only wanted to overlap a bit. So that's what I mean with adding layers. You're overlapping areas, but not all of the areas. So loving how this is a nice neutral in the background of that, or having this as the background of the neutral, I should say. So I wanted something different. You know, some of you go, oh, what is she covering all that up for? And who knows what's going to happen. I might come in with white. I come in with the neutral again. I might push back this whole section again. And what will happen is the buildup of collage that's covered creates a really interesting texture, because you sense something is under there and got covered up. So it adds to the mystery to the piece. So this is going to have a glaze because I want to pick up that texture. But I am going to be careful not to let it drip past the edge. So I can go that way, and I think it'll be pretty easy. If not, I can add some white tape and protect it. No big deal. because not all of the pieces need that glazing. This is your handcrafted papers with pieces of bark and all sorts of things. And I love how it's a beautiful off-white and just little scraps. This is also an excellent way when you're exploring, playing, and discovering to use your scrap bin. I could show you mine, but it weighs too much to bring over under the camera. Can you believe it? I've got to go through it. This is just some, and of course you can see these are all blue. I really am heavy with the images, but not for this particular series. This one, as I've shown, I just didn't see another piece that was needed. I might overlap. And see, now I've got this, looks like something building, and I really don't like that. So I'm going to wait until the glaze goes on and overlaps this high contrasted arc area. I think I want to get rid of that first, which will flatten the background, and then it'll let me know what needs to go on the next layer. Love the word stirrings. And it's this one, In the Deep. Well, In the Deep is the famous song, so I don't want to use that, but I might just use Deep or The Deep, or who knows. So I've got my circles, neutrals, black, and then this motion, very strong vertical composition. So as a difference, using this glazing will counteract that coming in horizontally. More glazing will happen here. Just interesting to know. So what I'll do is I'll use, which I love, the little skinny one, and I can practice which glazing on top of the nickel azo gold will look really cool. And I know lighter rather than deeper. I'm sensing that, but not yellow. So got to watch that. I'm loving this. And the type of mark that the brayer leaves, let's see, good, you can see that. I'm watching through my camera what I'm showing, so. And there's that gesso. So we'll really, the glazing will be really cool. At least I'm hoping. Horizontal, vertical, and then softening, getting that left to right going. Love the texture. And you see how far in the distance it really pushes that back, those early marks? So that's why you want to do that at the beginning. This is this vellum from some old encyclopedias, old texts that I find in my bookstore. It makes super collage. Old maps, just love it. I have got a whole series. I haven't even begun to use my ephemera. And love the translucency of this. That's just some off-white paper. And it's still a little tacky, but that'll dry, of course. There's the encyclopedia paper, but the text, using it vertically rather than being able to read it. You know it's something's there, but you can't read it. And then, of course, the stamping of circles with lots of texture and marks that are way in the background. Push back. And that's it for this week. Oh, there I go again. So that's, in a nutshell, adding some collage. And I only wanted, my intention was only like 2-3 pieces tops of collage, and then finishing up with highlighting, some marks, making some things finally pop, possible glazing with that gesso. Who knows what's going to happen with that. So I hope you come hit the like button, subscribe, jump over to my Facebook group, which I know I have not been there, but I will be there very soon, as I am, as I've said, in the middle of taking a big course, learning all about course creation, because it'll be my first one. I will be offering something at the beginning. I will be using, talking to of course, if you jump on my email list, you'll be the first to know with my newsletter, also my Facebook group. So I will see you there, hopefully, and stay tuned for part 3, where we take our mixed media series to the finishing stage. So I will see you in the next video.